How to use AI to promote equity now. This is episode 859.
This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
Thank you, EverFi, for sponsoring today's episode. Learn about EverFi's free resources that will give your students a head start and will save you valuable planning time. I'll tell you more at the end of the show, or you can go to everfi.com/coolcat to learn more. Now, on with the show. Today, we're talking to Victoria Thompson. 2023, she was named as one of ISTE's top 20 to watch, and she is author of the May 2024 book, Elevate Equity in EdTech, Expanding Inclusive Leadership Through the ISTE Standards. Now, Victoria, is one of the things you say is that we can use AI to promote equity. And, so many people have said, don't use AI because it has bias. It perpetuates bias. You have a different perspective. Could you tell us about it?
I do. So hi, Vicki. First of all, I'm super excited to be talking with you today. In my book, Elevate Equity in EdTech, I have an AI appendix. I thought I would be remiss if I didn't call out how AI could also elevate equity in EdTech. So when a lot of people think about artificial intelligence in education, especially because I operate in the K through 12 space and also in the higher ed space as an adjunct professor at a college down here in Central Florida, a lot of people just don't even want to have those conversations about the equity because they're more focused on academic integrity, cheating, what does that look like? But in my lens, the artificial intelligence that I utilize to have that equitable aspect within my classes is, okay, so we're using speech to text. That's artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
We are using translators in the classroom. That's artificial intelligence. We are doing ink to text for mathematics, for, different types of language. That is artificial intelligence. So these things don't operate in a vacuum. And I think that sometimes people believe that they do. We've been using artificial intelligence, honestly, for a very long time. Even when I use speech to text to dictate my emails, that's artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
If I am utilizing features within forms to generate questions, that's artificial intelligence. So I focus less on the Chat GPT, the OpenAI, that stuff, and more on the, hey, here are tools you're already utilizing that are giving students equitable opportunities within artificial intelligence. Now, not to minimize that there could be bias and some challenges with using AI in the classroom, but I think that really just gives us an opportunity to explore, not throw our hands up and say, okay, we're done, we're not going to utilize this, but really figure out what we can do to make more equitable outcomes in situations.
All need to understand the flow that we can have between speaking, text on a page, as well as to other languages. As we're recording this, there's the Meta AI that's come out with Llama. We've got all these things that allow this flow of text. And as I work with students, I want them to understand that you can now communicate with anybody, anywhere.
Yes.
And what are the tools that let you do that? I'm getting ready for an international trip. And so I'm making sure all my translator apps are up to date and my word lens and all the artificial intelligence tools that let me communicate with people in another country when most of the people don't speak English. I mean,
exactly.
Those are powerful.
Yeah, I was in a hotel not too long ago, and I was in Miami. And in Miami, a lot of people speak Spanish. I don't speak a lick of Spanish, which I should change. But my server only spoke Spanish, and I spoke English. So we were actually using the translation app on my phone to talk to each other. We found out that we had a lot in common. But again, that is artificial intelligence. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to have a conversation with that person.
Could we argue that people who don't know how to use these tools, that we're doing people a disservice and we're not making them the kind of people that can include people of other languages?
So ironically, I just released an article on Edutopia about 5 ways to support reluctant learners with artificial intelligence. So for me, I'm thinking there are valid reasons as to why people might not want to dive into artificial intelligence. But there's the data privacy policy tool side. But the majority of the educators that I interact with in my circles are concerned about job security. They are concerned about academic integrity. So it's kind of tale of two cities, right? But the big thing is we have to get ahead of this, because if you don't, it's going to be very challenging to dial it back. And I don't mean get ahead as in like like it's a gotcha, like, oh, by the way, we're using AI now. Getting ahead of it means that we're understanding what artificial intelligence is. We are looking into the future of really how this is going to revolutionize technology in education. We have students that are already using these tools. We have educators who are already using these tools. And if you're not at the forefront of understanding what these tools do, then you're kind of behind. And I always have concerns, right? Of, maybe if someone's deploying 20 tools at once and they're just kind of trying everything. Like, I have empathy for people who are just diving in head first but don't know where to begin. But I struggle when I hear people say I don't even want to learn about it, because it's already here, and there's a very solid chance that you're probably already using it in some capacity. So then the question becomes, how much do you want to learn, and how do you want to implement it?
And I've seen the predictions in the book, The Future's Faster Than You Think by Peter Diamandis, that the period we're in now, basically 10 years in regular time, is going to be 100 years worth of change, because anytime artificial intelligence jumps on the back of a technology, change becomes exponential. And a lot of people think, exponential change, that just means really fast. No, it doesn't. It actually means really, really slow at the beginning. And then all of a sudden it takes over and it's everywhere. And that scares people.
I used to teach math. So like when you look at exponential growth, it's slow, 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 all the way at the bottom of the graph, right? And then it just skyrockets up.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is where we are with AI right now, where I've had and have been working with educators who have been implementing AI for years.
Right.
But then now that it's a large topic and ChatGPT became a huge thing, and now we have Copilot, Google Gemini, there's all of these different AI tools. People are just very interested. They want a piece of the pie, and they're trying to make sense of this as it's all happening.
Well, honestly, when you look at it the first time, there is a visceral response to AI. Because if our identity as human beings is in what we do, we're in trouble. It's in who we are. We are all infinitely valuable, important people. And AI is just a tool, and it can help us do certain things well, but other things like creative tasks. And, I was using it for something the other day to try to capture some really novel, unique observations I had about using artificial intelligence in spreadsheets. And Victoria, it could not even repeat for me what I was putting in it. And I think my theory was it had never really seen those word combinations before. Not that I'm some genius or anything, but it is a new novel topic. What do I teach my 8th and 9th graders about using AI with spreadsheets?
Right.
And it kept ignoring the new stuff that I hadn't seen written anywhere before. And I'm thinking, you know what? This is really a terrible tool to use when you're on the forefront or when you're truly innovating. I just think that sometimes, and see, that actually worries me, because if you have a podcast, or if you have a meeting and you're using AI summarization, if it sees something it's never seen before, is it going to leave out the creative? I don't know.
Right. So one of the things that I emphasize always, 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 and I say this in the book as well, is we still have to be the humans behind the screen.
Yeah.
We have to be the people behind the screen to make sure that everything is still okay. So when I work with my college students, one of the things that we do is actually a ChatGPT challenge. You can use it with any artificial intelligence, but basically, if you type in your name and your social media handles, ChatGPT or any online service will write a biography about you.
Right.
That's how we begin that process, because you know yourself better than anybody else. And this is a way to say, okay, what is the service doing, and how does it make sense? So I found through multiple searches that there are like 3 pretty prominent Victoria Thompson. So one is me. One is like a romance author out of like Oregon State. And then the other is like an ABC newscaster located in like northern New Jersey, New York area. So the first time that it actually did the biography, it was the woman from Oregon. So getting it to my students, I'm like, okay, is this me? And they say no. The second time it was the woman out of the Northeast, and I said, is this me? And they said no. The third time it gave me, but it had incorrect information.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily like super duper wrong, but it was so vague that my students knew that it wasn't right. So
Yeah.
what we do is we actually grade it. So I say, okay, if you were me, what grade would you give this essay? And they would say we give it about like a C minus, right? Like a C minus or a C. It's not terrible, but it's not the best. So
Hmm.
that's the first litmus test where we say, nobody knows yourself better than you. Try this out. See what responses you get from different AI platforms. And that's not necessarily like equity related, but it's just a way for us to say, this is how we are the fact checkers behind the screen. We cannot take artificial intelligence at face value. We still have to be the people who are looking at things and saying, is this okay? Is this not okay? Is this good? Is this not good? And then we can take it from there.
So, Victoria, if we fast forward 3 years and we have done everything wrong, what would be those wrong things that we would have done?
Oh goodness. That's like the question of the century. I think one of the things I feel like I'm encountering the most right now with artificial intelligence is that people are diving headfirst into platforms, programs, and certifications without even taking a look at the rigor of them. And this is a big sticking point for me in particular. So like this just might be my bias coming through, but like I want to make sure that if I go through a program for AI training or AI certification, that it is a robust program where I am certified or I get my portfolio or I've got some statement of work that says I've learned something. I'm seeing a lot of AI startups pop up right now in education and otherwise, where all of these levels of certifications are coming through. But sometimes it's just you read a paragraph or you watch like a 15-minute video and then you're level whatever, or like you don't even have to do a portfolio to get accepted. It's just, oh, you took all these classes and now you're officially certified. It's, for me, I have a personal ethical challenge with that because I, in my professional career, have made it a point where every certification I've gone through, I need to have a product at the end of it. So I can showcase what I've learned and what I've done, and then I can apply it to whatever I'm doing at that time. So I'm a little hyper aware of wolf in sheep's clothing, if we want to call it that
Hmm.
right now, because there have been so many AI startups that have been popping up. And I tend to gravitate to the ones where I know there's going to be a viable product at the end of it instead of just me watching videos and reading paragraphs and then I win, right? Like then I
Yeah.
get my certification. I would say that's where folks might go wrong. That's my number one concern right now.
This seems to be such an AI land grab. I got an email the other day, honestly, offering me a high percentage of their revenue if I would recommend their particular product that's supposed to help teachers, right? And then I
Mm-hmm.
started digging into the founders, and their previous experience was creating AI girlfriend apps. And you're
Whoa.
just like, where's the So I agree. As educators, we're supposed to be researchers. Like we're
Right.
supposed to understand digging into things and having discernment and being wise. And when we just go, yeah, let's do it. It sounds good. You had a pretty web page, which a lot of them are being written by AI, right?
AI. Uh-huh.
The litmus test was the typo test. If they didn't have any typos on their website, they must be legitimate. But now we don't have that. So I agree with you that if we just blindly run into the future and everything that sounds like a good idea and everything that's new and shiny, there just seems to be such a desperation. And if I ever feel pressured to buy something, I don't ever buy. If somebody's pressuring me and they can't wait, it just feels like there's this, go, buy,
A
do,
hundred
get this,
percent. A
yeah,
100%. And it's hard too because, like I mentioned earlier, everybody seems to want a piece of the pie, which I have empathy for because we don't want to be caught behind.
yeah,
But then the caveat of that is now you're staring down the barrel of 20 different tools and 20 different people who want your attention and 20 different people who want you to be an ambassador, right? And 20 different people who want you to be involved in their community. So when I work with people, I always say, okay, let's just take a step back and let's breathe a little bit and let's stop and think. Like, how can we conceptualize what we actually want to learn, what we want to do, and what that's going to mean for the kids and for
yeah,
us, right? Because at the end of the day,
yeah,
that's what it's all about. It's our personal professional development and also what it means for the people that we interact with, which for the most part are going to be our colleagues and our students. So it's hard because it feels like chaos sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I feel like one day I woke up and on my Twitter feed, because I still call it Twitter, but like, everybody was talking about AI. So I'm thinking, okay, I have experience with AI and I utilize AI in my classroom, but now I need to figure out what they're talking about. And then that
Yeah.
leads me down the rabbit hole of what other people are talking about and what other people are talking about. But at the end of the day, I have to center myself in what I think is going to be good for me and the populations that I serve. And if I'm able to do that, that's all that matters.
There's something to be said for having a career, doing good, helping people, being consistent, and knowing that's part of just being part of this education community, because things can be so fleeting. I think when I think of the beginning of the internet, I think of Yahoo, right? Yahoo was
Yes.
all it when it started, and so was ChatGPT, and now these other tools are coming out, and you're just like, huh, interesting. So the book is Elevate Equity in EdTech, Expanding
Yes.
Inclusive Leadership Through the ISTE Standards. This is far more than about AI. This is all about EdTech and elevating equity. And it's Victoria Thompson. Thanks for coming on the show, Victoria.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Do you want to equip your students for success in their careers and personal lives, but you just don't know where to start? I'm going to tell you today about an awesome free opportunity you have to do just that for all grades K through 12. EverFi has your go-to solution. It aligns with state standards and has earned the prestigious ISTE seal. EverFi's digital lessons are crafted to empower your students to excel in our dynamic world. The lessons are interactive, self-paced, and designed by content experts. They have courses such as financial literacy, workforce readiness, character building, mental health, and prevention education for all grade levels. And thanks to EverFi's generous partners, these research-based resources come at no cost to all K-12 schools, districts, and students. So visit everfi.com/coolcat. That's everfi.com/coolcat and get started today on these amazing lessons for free.
You've been listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. If you want more content from Vicki Davis, you can find her on Facebook, X.com, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Cool Cat Teacher. Thank you for listening.